Good morning. So I made a brief Star Trek vlog about Spock's brain recently, and I talked a little bit about the Captain Kirk unique characteristic of him, the Kirkism, which is to do the right thing no matter what the cost. I mentioned in passing the 2009 Star Trek, the beginning of the Kelvin verse. And anyway, I did have at least someone on social media commented that the same characteristics are carried over into Darkness and to other movies. The reason that I don't talk about Into Darkness, and I guess I will today, God, that was awful. Now, I liked 2009. I have been a supporter of the Kelvin verse. It's an alternate reality, and overall, it's not a bad one. Get with the program, folks. And Into Darkness by itself would have been a very solid movie, maybe even a really good movie. The problem is, well, they went too far. With 2009, you really take a risk when you reboot, even in an alternate reality, a franchise like that. And of course, they have suffered the consequences of the eternal wrath and hatred of a lot of Trekkers out there. Will never, ever forgive them and never like the Kelvin verse. Be that as it may, I thought they did a great job. But you really drop the ball when you successfully, in my view, rebooted a universe, and instead of now just doing new Star Trek stories in this new universe, things you didn't never have done before, and it's a wide open field, you try to keep redoing old tracks. And worst of all, redoing The Wrath of Khan. Well, and Space Seed. It was a bad choice. And there's a couple of reasons, obviously, why. Ricardo Montalban was a magnificent, macho, emoting, just a great actor, and so a great villain. And Benedict Cumberbatch is a magnificent actor, and honestly, he nailed it. I can't say that there was anything wrong with anyone's performance or even the script per se, except that it existed. When you did The Wrath of Khan, you took an episode of Star Trek, the original series, that was good, but really, I'm not sure that it really ranks as high in quality if you're ranking those episodes, despite having Ricardo Montalban. The story, I don't know. I'm not sure how high it really ranks. It begins to rank higher because of The Wrath of Khan, which conversely, The Wrath of Khan starts out higher because it had Space Seed. That's to say, 15 years. A villain from 15 years ago who was violent and brutal and now is worse and now bent on revenge. And in the middle, you've had all of these other years of growth. Kirk and Spock are not the people that you thought of in the original series when it aired. You know there's been all these years in between, and then you've seen them come together again in the motion picture and this sort of epic rejoin. And now this bad guy is back, and then culminating in Spock's death and The Wrath of Khan. And it has a depth of meaning and resonates with the audience because of the length of time over which it occurred, both in real life and in our fictional universe. When you condense Space Seed essentially into a new version of The Wrath of Khan, and you do it all at once, and you make the huge deal, the whole dramatic, I have been and ever shall be your friend. It's like having Kirk and Spock say that to each other by the end of season 1 of the original series. It just doesn't. Come on, guys, really? And this is very much symptomatic of a lot of current sort of reboots, reimaginings, or even continuations in Star Wars and other things, when characters are suddenly introduced with no backstory that you have no connection to, and yet halfway through the first movie of the new franchise, you're expected to have this overwhelming emotional attachment and be like, oh my gosh, oh, this is so weepy. And it's not. And it means nothing because you haven't even established that we should care about these characters. And usually you've done a bad job of making us want to. And Into Darkness, like I said, is a really good movie by itself, except it leaves us wondering why these people are so attached to one another because you haven't seen that on screen yet. But as a glimpse into this universe, you might be like, that's a good story. But it's so empty, it's so shallow, and it so lacks anything remotely like the oomph of The Wrath of Khan. And again, it might have come close had the Kelvinverse franchise gone on for another 15 years or so, if they had done another 7 or 8 movies after doing a version of Space Seed, and then over this length of time, we see these people come together and become the kind of family that they were in the Prime universe, and then he returns, Benedict Cumberbatch, in 15 years, a little older and playing the role again. You could do that, but you can't take shortcuts to that. You can't just repeat these epic things without putting in the time that they did to get where they ended up. And as a quick footnote to this, the only movie that I've ever known that did this successfully, that is, made you care about the history in one film, The Watchmen. I'm not one of those people that grew up with the comic book. I actually did not read that particular comic in that era. I don't know why. I just never did. And so a lot of folks that loved the comic have issues with the movie. I think the movie is one of the greatest movies that has ever been made. But what The Watchmen does, from the opening sequence, the flashbacks, the whole ambiance of the smoky rooms of the 50s and 60s, and the old flash photography, there's this whole introducing the retired night owl. By the time I'm a quarter of the way into that movie, I felt like I'd been reading the comic since 1981. You can even see me stretch. That's how it felt to me. And that was incredibly well conveyed. So that by the end of that movie, completely contained in itself is this story that is an epic story from the beginning of the Minutemen to the end, and very well done. They were able to make me care and believe that there was a depth there that I was somehow a part of. It's very hard to pull that off in a film. Sadly, Into Darkness did not for me capture that. The only thing that really got me through the dramatic sequences of these people that have only known each other for a short time and worked together for a couple of years, what got me through was, of course, what they were hoping, my memories of the Prime universe that gave those characters more of a context, but it just didn't make it, in my view. So I really liked 2009, and I thought the third one, I'm going to forget its name on the fly, it was a really good story itself, but Into Darkness, it was a good story, good movie, just couldn't do what it was aiming to do, and it just could never be equal to Khan on the terms that it exists now.